Please let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, it's visible.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can see your
Um,
face.
yeah, let me see if I can just drop a reminder to in the team or on the chat so that others can also, join. Just give me a sec. All right. So last week we were able to do a bit of introduction. For those who were here last week, we did a bit of introduction to data science. We talk about data collection and scraping. One of the methodology when it comes to data collection is scraping, web scraping. We also talk about relational data. We talk about Jupyter Notebook. And one of the things I said I was going to talk about before we go into today's class, which is visualization, data exploration, you know, is to show you an example of one of the methodologies of data collection, which is web scraping. We might not have the luxury luxury of, having a database that we can interact with today. But just like in the first class, you were told that there are many places on the internet that you can learn SQL. There is W3 School where you can learn any programming language, including SQL. I made mention of SQL, but many other platforms that you can learn. So because we don't have that luxury of, installing or downloading and installing the database, interacting with the database, I want to advise you once again to try as much as possible to, get your hands dirty by going to this platform to learn SQL, right? Also, like I said, because of that, we are going to be limiting the scope of our data collection to just web scraping. Web scraping. So, once again, if you are not talking, please mute your mic. We're going to be limited to the scope of our class to just web scraping, which is just one method in which you can gather data. All right. So many at times when you work in an enterprise environment, you will see that there's a lot of um, interaction with the database. As a data scientist, you're going to be interacting with data because most of the time your data is stored in a database. So but because of this limited time we have, we are going to be using web scraping. So I've prepared um, a simple notebook, which is just for us to, retrieve some kind of data from an online page. Um, this is a page. This is just a Wikipedia page, which I just want to use for as an example today. This is list of African countries by area. So imagine that you're a data scientist, you are working on some project, you're a data analyst, you are a data professional working on some kind of project, and you need to get the list of African countries by area. You want to list of African countries by their area, the measurement. All right. So for example, this is Algeria, which is about 7.9% of African landmass. And then this is the area in kilometers square. This is Republic of Congo, this is Sudan. So imagine you want to get this data and you don't have the luxury of having to manually, get this data and input them in some Excel file. You want to programmatically retrieve this data from a website like Wikipedia. How do you do that? Which is a method. So there's a method in data collection called web scraping. All right. So that means you can leverage web scraping to retrieve this information. Let me just show you under 5-10 minutes how you can do that, because I want us to really talk about data visualization. And then also, this is my last class. I also want to touch on some theoretical aspect of model building, machine learning, and co. Somebody is sending a message. Please, is this data science or data? This is data science class. Sophie, this is data science class. All right. So yeah, let's see how that works. So I'll just explain, like I said, this class is not enough for us to talk about the fundamentals of Python. But please, if you don't have some kind of um, previous knowledge of Python, it is important. It's a very important tool. And not just a tool, is a very important skill that you can learn as a data scientist. If your interest is to become a data scientist, a machine learning engineer, even a data engineer, or even a business intelligence analyst, it is always a great skill to have in your belt. All right. So please try and go to W3 schools. There are fundamentals of Python that you can learn there. There are a lot of videos on Udemy, on Coursera, on Udacity that you can get on. Like I said, this class is just meant to tell you what is possible, what we can do with data, right? So I'm going to just show you how this works. So I'm going to tell you, how many of you remember this platform that I'm showing now? If you were here last week, you will understand. You will tell me, can somebody just tell me what is the name of the platform or this environment or this editor or this runtime that we have right now on the screen? Who can just tell me what is the name of this?
Jupyter Notebook.
Okay, thank you. Olakunle said Jupyter Notebook. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is the Jupyter Notebook, and I kind of did a bit of introduction to Jupyter Notebooks. Like I said, I have shared the main course that I'm using to introduce you to data science is a course by Professor Zico Kotler, a professor of Carnegie Mellon University, who used this same course to take some of the undergraduate students the practical data science. This is
Sugar.
this is an important course. Please go through it. I've made the link available on the chat last week, so please go through this link. So let's get to it. So Python give you varieties of libraries to work with. Libraries are off-the-shelf tools that you have in Python that helps you to do things. You don't have to build them from scratch. You already have them built for you. All right. So there is a library that we're going to use for web scraping. Many of you might have heard about it before. It is called Beautiful Soup. I'm also using this opportunity to also check those who are dropping charts on thank you. So we're going to use a library called Beautiful Soup, another library called Request. So anytime you are interacting with any form of URL or web data, you'll be using a library called Request. All right, it is called Request. So we're going to import these libraries into our environment so that we can make use of them. Two libraries, Beautiful Soup and then Request. So the first cell is simply to import these libraries. Sorry for those who are advanced in Python. Please permit me to just go as easy as possible, as layman as possible, because of those who have never used this environment before. So this first cell is meant for us to just import the libraries that we need to use. So like I said, we need Beautiful Soup, we need Request. So I'm just going to connect to my runtime by just clicking on this button, connect. So once my runtime is ready, then I can start interacting. So just to be sure everybody knows, this is also a cell. So this is also a cell. And if you remember last week, we said this is a test cell. This is a markdown cell. So all of these tests that you have here is also a cell like this code cell. But instead of a code cell, it is called a markdown cell. And I practicalized this last week. So today you are going to see how the code cell works, right? So the first thing we need to do is to import our libraries. So once you are done importing your libraries, or let me say, the way you import your Beautiful Soup is to call it from another library called BS4. So from BS4, import Beautiful Soup. And then we're also trying to import a library used for interacting with web data, all right, called Request. So we are importing these two libraries. So I can just execute my code. And then you can see that there's a green tick here that shows that this cell has been executed successfully. All right. So please, if you have any question, feel free to just stop me. Like I said, this is meant to just give you a taste of what is possible in data science. But if you have any question, please feel free to unmute your mic and raise your hand.
Is there an issue with data analysis? This was
So,
issue with data analysis.
all right. So yeah, so this is what you have, right? You have executed the first cell. The next thing is that we need to now assign a URL to a variable. Don't forget that this is the URL that we are trying, this is the web page that we are trying to retrieve this data from. All right. This is what we are interested in. Basically, we're interested in just this table. All right. Every other thing is not important to us. We are just interested in this table. This is the table we're interested in. So we need to get the URL, and the URL is simply this link that you have here, this HTTPS, blah, 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 Wikipedia, list of African countries by area. This is what we made by the URL. So I will need to store this URL in a variable. A variable helps you to store an information in programming language, including Python. So for example, link is a variable name. And then inside the link, we are storing this URL in it. So anytime we need to make use of this URL, instead of calling this URL directly, we just call link. For many of you that have backgrounds in programming, this will not be new to you, right? So we are assigning URL to a variable called link. All right. So now I'm going to execute this code just for you to see that, okay, this works. So you can see that there's a green tick by the side, also showing you that, okay, this code cell has been successfully executed. All right. So we are going to the next cell, which is now where we start using our libraries. All right. So the first thing that you need to understand is that there is for many of you that have the basic understanding of HTML, CSS, this will not be new to you. So if I stay on this screen and can you see, I right click on my screen and you will see something called either view page source or inspect. When you click on inspect, you will see that everything that you are seeing on the left-hand side is being powered by some elements. Like I said, many of you that have the understanding of HTML and CSS, this will not be new to you. All right. So this page is being powered by elements. All right. And then you can see that you will see these elements in action. You will see all of them in action. So, for example, somebody might be asking me, how do I locate this table? If you understand that the concept of HTML and CSS, you will know that a table is embedded within a tag called TD. All right. And so all of these things are things that you need to know. Maybe if you're interested in web scraping, if web scraping is something that you really want to do, you can then go and learn web scraping. I'm just telling you, just for you to know that, okay, this is just this is what powers this web page. There's an element, or let me say there's something under the hood running. So for example, if I right click on this table, and I inspect the table, you will see that within this table, you will see there's a class called table. And you can see that as I'm hovering over this table, sorry, there's a tag, not a class. There's a tag called table. As I over this table, you will see that this table is highlighted on the left-hand side. So within HTML, this is what is responsible for the creation of this table. For those of you that have background in web development, this will not be new to you. And then you will see that each of these rows in the table has something in it. All right. So if I click on country, you will see that this is country is highlighted. If I go to the next one, total is highlighted. If I go to the next one, African area is. So because you have this understanding, you already know that you can easily retrieve this information in Python. All right. Is there any question? Let me be sure that I'm not just speaking to myself. Is there any question right now? Please feel free to unmute your mic. I know we don't have all the time, but like I said, This will have been a very interesting class if we have all the time to ourselves. And let me just say this, that this is not a paid account. So we're probably going to be logged out 40 minutes into this call. So immediately you are logged out, just join the same meeting link again. We are sorry about that. So immediately you are logged out of this meeting, just join the meeting again. So yeah, let me go straight to it. But please, this knowledge of HTML is very important. It's going to help you to know how to scrape your data. You can see this is the body of the table called T body. So anytime you want to retrieve anything within the body, you know that you need to do it within the T body. If I want to access the first row, it is embedded within the TR tag. And you can see that each of the cell is embedded within the TD. All right. So this is cell one, this is row two, this is cell two, and all of that. So please, I'm just saying, doing this just so that you can understand that I didn't just pick this code from somewhere and just, there are things that you need to understand first. So now let's start using this. Remember, I told you that request is one of the libraries that you use to interact with web pages. So we're going to use, you are going to see how we use this request that we have imported. So now we are going to use request to get the raw HTML content from the website. Don't forget what I just showed you now. We need to first get the HTML content. We need to get this HTML content. That's what we can use to retrieve this data programmatically. All right. So we need to interact with the HTML directly. So that's what we are going to do. So for us to do that, we need to use request to get the HTML. So request will help you to get the raw HTML content from that website. And then we can store this HTML content inside another variable called HTML underscore script. HTML underscore script is a variable name. It can be anything. You can call it whatever it is that you want, right? But I decided to call it HTML underscore script because I want it to be descriptive. I want to be able to remember what I stored there. So I know that whenever I see HTML underscore script, I know that I'm storing the raw HTML content of the website within this variable. So I'm going to go ahead and execute this. You can see this is your request. So I'm calling my request now. There is a method within the request library called .get. There is a get method. That method helps me to get and retrieve the link. All right. So, and retrieve the HTML. And don't forget that this link variable that we created already. Somebody have their mics on. All right, let me just mute the person. All right, so link is the variable where we stored the URL, the link to that website. HTML script is the variable that stores the raw HTML content that we want. And how do we get the HTML content? By calling a library called request and then using a method within that request called get method to retrieve the link that we have. Any question? I hope this is not going to take the entire 1 hour. I don't know how we can do this. Anyway, let's just go ahead. If this is the only thing you get, I think it's worth it. All right. So yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and execute this code, and then you will see that we've executed this code successfully. So the next step, now that you have your HTML script, so that you can see what I'm talking about, let me try and print the content of HTML so that you can see what is there. So now we have our link, our raw HTML stored in a variable called HTML script. So let me try and print it so that you can see what is there. So print HTML script. All right. HTML underscore script. So if I execute this code, you will see that it returns a response called 200. A response 200 means what? It was successful. This already tells you that there's something already within the HTML script, right? So it tells you immediately that it's successful. All right. So you can view the output elsewhere if you are interested. If you are not interested, you can just move ahead. So let's just go to let's just leave this screen. Let's go back to our screen. Okay. Oh, sorry. I think I I logged out from my Jupyter notebook. Just give me a minute. Let me get my Jupyter notebook. I mistakenly, log out from that. So let me quickly get it back. Just give me a minute. Okay, we are back. So let me just share my screen again. Sorry about that. Okay, so let me know when you can see my screen, guys. Sorry about
Can see your browser.
okay, awesome. So let me just refresh this again. All right, so let me connect back to my Jupyter notebook and then execute the code once again. Then we can continue. All right, so I'm just going to execute these, execute these, execute these, and this. So now you have a response 200. Response 200 mean was is successful. Now let's see what this HTML looks like, right? So let's extract the tests. If you remember when I was showing you, you will see that the HTML contain text, but you can see that the text, look at this is country, right? This is a test, right? There are tests in this HTML. So let us retrieve the test part of this HTML because there are other things within this HTML, with this raw HTML. There are other things that you don't need, but let's extract only the useful thing, which is the test. So for us to do that, we are going to create another variable called test script. So I'm trying to extract the test from the HTML script. So, and I will store that information within another variable called test script. All right, so since we already know that the HTML underscore script variable contain the HTML content from the website, there is a method we can now use to get the test. All right. So that is what we are good. So I'm going to call a method called .test on the HTML script variable, and that will give us what we want. So we've executed that successfully. But now, if you see, so I'm going to print it so that you can see it. I didn't want to waste my time. That's why I didn't print it. It's going to be very, very long, but let me just print it so that you can see what is the test script as well. I guess I might have to make this available so that you can also look at it at your leisure so that I don't waste too much time. Okay, can you see it? Can you see that? Can you see that right now? This is what you just you can see the test. You can see the test. You can see the test. So this is what you have, but I'm just going to delete it because it's a lot, right? Let's just limit it. So, but now we need to take the part of this test and process it. That is what we actually need. And that is where you are going to be using somebody's mic is not the person is really disturbing me. Yeah. All right. So yeah, we need to get the useful part of that test, of that HTML test. And for us to do that, that is where the second library. I might have to mute everybody. I wanted to make the class very interactive, but people just keep on. Sorry, I have to mute everybody. So when I need you to talk, I will just enable everybody back. I'm sorry about that. So if you want to ask a question, please just raise your hand. All right. So let's see the useful part of this. Oh my God, we are running out of our time already. So let's see the useful part of this HTML test, right? So for us to do that, we're going to be calling Beautiful Soup. Remember, Beautiful Soup is that library that helps us to be able to process the web content, or let me say the HTML script that we have. So we're going to call beautiful soup. Sorry, we're going to first save it within a variable called useful test. I call it useful test because that is something that is useful that we want to store there. So we're going to call the library called beautiful soup, and we're going to call the test script. Remember, the test script now contains the test part of our HTML content. And then we are going to call this as an HTML parser. It's a processing tool that helps us. Beautiful soup has that thing within it called HTML parser that helps us to parse HTML. So I'm going to go ahead and execute this code, and then you will see that it has been executed. So let's see what is within our useful test. And I will use there's another method called prettify that help us to print the useful part of that test. So I'm going to call prettify method on it, and then you will see that that thing that looks very dirty is beginning to make sense a little bit. All right. At least from there, you can start seeing things that you can make use of. All right. But let's even go further. Let's further clean this data. Let us see what else we can do to make this data more cleaner, right? At least some of us can see the title name of the table. Look at it, list of African countries. That means we are getting there gradually. So the next thing for us to do is to also print the title and then the text. So this is what, let's try and print out the title of this. Everybody look at it again. List of African countries. So let's say we want to print this title. We want to get this title out. All right. So I'm just going to say print. So useful test. Don't forget that all of this is stored within a variable called useful test. And that variable, we are going to call that variable, and then we're going to use a method called .title and then .test to retrieve the title of the page. So when I run this, what do you have here? You have list of African countries by area, Wikipedia. All right. So now let's begin to go to the main thing, which is the table. The table is really our interest. So let's see how we can get to the table. So the next thing we need to do is that if you look at the table, you see that the table has, this table is within a tag called table. Look at the table tag. So everything here is stored within a tag called table. So we can leverage that tag to retrieve table. All right, so let's see. So don't forget that we now have a variable called useful test, and we can now find, you can use the find method to find the table within that test. And then we can use prettify to retrieve the table. So I'm just going to execute this code, and then you will see that we have this information. So this is the table, but the table still does not make sense, but at least you are able to see that this is the tag. All right, you know that you are already within the table. So we know that the table is stored within a variable called table. All right, so now let's see how we can retrieve the rows. Remember, I told you that for you to retrieve the rows, if you expand this table, you will see that each row is stored within another tag called tr. So this first row that contains country, the columns, this is it. If I want to see another row, I will have to come here. All right, to see another row. So you can see this is the row, and each of these row has cells. All right, so let's see how we can retrieve the rows of this table. So there's a method within beautiful soup that is called find all. Find all. So we're going to use find all method to retrieve the rows. So the source code, we are retrieving the rows using the tag tr. So we're going to find everywhere you can find tr in the table. We want you to save it within table called rows. So I'm going to just execute this. All right. And this is what you have. So you can see that we are getting there gradually. So we now have, can you see the numbers you have in your cells? Can you see the numbers? It's already making sense, but yeah, it's still a little bit dirty. So we need to still further clean it. But because of our time, I'm just going to rush this. So the next thing I want to do is to retrieve all the rows and then, save them, right? Save them and rank them. So I'm just going to execute these so that you can see it. Execute these. I'm going to make this available. So what I'm doing right now is I'm retrieving the rows one after the other. Look at the, you can see the list of the countries, all right? So that means I'm already retrieving these rows. All right. So I'm just going to, because of our time, guys, just allow me to run these. And basically, by the time you retrieve all these rows, you can, you know, you can save the columns, and then you will have this. And then your end result will be just something like this, basically. I don't have time to run all of these. We have just 4 minutes left. And I want the remaining 15 minutes that we have, or let me say the remaining 20 minutes that we have, I want to spend it on other topics that I have left today. So please, I will try and make this Jupyter notebook available to in the after this class so that you can also, interact with it yourself. Thank you. Any question before we go to the next call? We want to talk about data visualization and exploration. Any question, guys? Okay, I have somebody in the chat. The network is really bad here, and I'm just joining and rejoining, so I'm not really getting much. Please hope the full video will be posted. Yeah, the video will be made available on the YouTube channel by the admin. Olakule, your hand is up. Please ask your question. Olakule, can you? Okay, let me allow you. I think I muted everybody. Sorry, let me unmute you. Can you try and unmute your mic now, Olakule? All
Yes,
right.
that is good. Thank you. You to access the table, you pass
Hello.
the parameter table to one of the good tables on the same page.
Sorry, I didn't hear
Can you
you.
hear me?
You were breaking out at some, but yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, you call the method and pass table to it,
Okay. Yeah.
and that gave you that table. What if you have
I
multiple
wrote
tables on the same page?
for me to get this table, right? Where is it? For me to get this table, there are other things that I did. I first retrieved all the rows of my table. All right. And I saved them. All right. You can see that I created an empty column called country. I saved all the country rows, put it in a variable called country. You will see that I created one called rank. This is just the way they were ranked, right? And then I put them in a variable called rank. Then the next thing is that the area. Look at, we have 3 columns here. This is the ranking. This is the country. This is the area. We are interested in the area, so I didn't get the total column. So what I did was to store each of this information in variables. All right. Do
Yeah.
you get that now? And after that, I use another library called Pandas. Pandas is a relational, is a library that helps you to relate with rows and column. I mean, relational data. So I call this and I save it in a Pandas data frame called DF. So rank, country, and area is saved. And then that is how you came about this table.
Yeah, but when you pull that table data from the HTML,
Yeah.
you pass the parameter of table
Yeah,
to
it is
that beautiful soup.
yes, I know that it is. Look at it. The table is the tag.
Yes.
I know that this table, that's why I said that there's need for you to have some kind of basic HTML understanding. I know that this table within this static website um, is stored within a tag called table. And look at the table, look at the tag. So that means I need to access this table before I can access the rows of the table. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so my question is,
Mhm.
what if you had multiple tables on the page?
Yes, now so you will see it arranged. You will see that there will be different table tags.
No,
So,
you call the method and you pass table to it.
so once you
So in
pass
a
table
scenario
to
that
it, yeah, just hear me. There will be multiple tables within this tag. And what can you see something? Let me show you something. Can you see find? Can you see this method called find?